Let's get started. Number 10. Spending money actually makes you happier. You've heard this your whole life. Money can't buy happiness. Yeah, tell that to someone trying to pay rent. Science says the complete opposite. Spending money can make you happier, but only when you do it the right way. Harvard psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Dunn ran a massive study and found that people who spent money on experiences or others reported being significantly happier than those who only saved or spent on themselves. In other words, buying a trip with friends beats buying another pair of shoes you'll forget about next month. And here's the kicker. It's not about how much you spend. It's about how. Buying small moments that make you feel alive. Coffee with someone you love, a movie ticket, a weekend getaway, gives your brain dopamine that lasts longer than stuff ever will. But here's where it gets ironic. People who obsess over saving every penny, the ones who never waste money, often end up feeling more stressed and less satisfied with life. Their brains literally associate spending with danger. In neuroscience, it's called loss aversion. Your brain feels twice as bad losing $10 as it feels good gaining 10. That's why stingy people often live trapped in anxiety loops about money, even when they have plenty. Meanwhile, those who learn to spend intentionally, not impulsively, actually report better emotional well-being, more social connection, and less regret. So yeah, money can't buy happiness, but it can rent it in monthly installments if you know what you're doing. When you hear someone proudly say, "I never spend money on myself," what they're really saying is, "I don't let myself live." Because here's the truth. Saving for the future is smart, but if you never buy the present, you'll end up rich in regrets and poor in memories. Number 9. Poor people are better at managing money than rich people think. Here's a fact most rich people will never admit. Poor people are often better with money. Not richer, just better. Because when you don't have much, every dollar becomes a tactical decision. You're not wasting cash on avocado toast. You're running a full-scale logistics operation just to survive. Science backs it. Behavioral economists from Princeton found that people living paycheck to paycheck make fewer impulsive purchases than higher income earners. Why? Because they can't afford mistakes. They budget down to the cent, calculate every meal, and stretch resources like they're managing a microeconomy. Meanwhile, the wealthy fall into what's called affluence blindness, the belief that money problems disappear when you earn more. Spoiler, they don't. They just get more expensive. Ever met someone who earns $200,000 a year and is still broke? That's lifestyle inflation. When income rises, self-control drops. Studies show that once basic needs are met, financial discipline doesn't scale. People just buy bigger versions of the same problems. Poor people, on the other hand, develop real-world skills. Rich people pay coaches to teach. Resourcefulness, delayed gratification, adaptability. They know the difference between needs and wants. They can stretch a dollar farther than most CEOs stretch a budget. Here's the irony. When rich people mess up, they hire a financial advisor. When poor people mess up, the lights go out. And yet society still paints the poor as bad with money. In reality, they're doing economics on hard mode. It's like playing chess with half the pieces missing, and still managing to make it to checkmate. Research from the London School of Economics found that lower-income individuals often outperform higher earners in managing short-term financial priorities. That's not stupidity, that's survival intelligence. But this constant mental load has a cost. It's called scarcity fatigue. When your brain is always calculating, planning, and worrying, it runs out of processing power for long-term goals. So next time someone says poor people just need to learn how to save, remember, they already know how. They've been doing it longer and harder than anyone else. They just don't have the luxury of mistakes. If the wealthy had to live a month on minimum wage, half of them would file for emotional bankruptcy. Number 8. Saving too much money can actually make you feel poorer. Here's a weird one. Saving too much money can make you feel broke, even when you're not. Sounds backward, right? But psychology says otherwise. Humans aren't wired for delayed gratification that lasts decades. When you keep saving but never spend, your brain doesn't interpret that as security. It reads it as scarcity. And that constant sense of not enough eventually turns your financial discipline into quiet misery. Let's be clear. Saving money is smart, but hoarding it, that's fear disguised as responsibility. Behavioral economists call it the saver's paradox. You save to feel safe, but the more you save, the less safe you feel, because you're constantly worrying about losing what you've stored. Researchers at Cambridge found that people who rigidly avoid spending tend to experience the same stress levels as those deep in debt. Why? Because their brain's fear response activates not when they spend money, but when they think about spending money. That's not frugality. That's anxiety wearing a budget. Meanwhile, your money sits there, losing value to inflation like ice melting in a glass. The irony? The savers who refuse to risk anything often end up falling behind those who invest or spend strategically. Saving too much can also stunt your sense of progress. You stop rewarding yourself, stop feeling momentum, and eventually stop living. That's why psychologists say the healthiest money strategy isn't extreme saving. It's intentional spending. Spend to grow, not just to feel good. Put your money into things that build skills, experiences, and freedom, not just a bigger emergency fund that never gets touched. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Money has zero emotional value until it moves. A pile of cash in your account isn't wealth, it's just potential wealth. It's like owning a Ferrari and never driving it because you're afraid of scratches. People who never let themselves spend often end up with the same mindset as those who never save. They're both ruled by fear, just from opposite sides of the wallet. So if you're the type who checks your savings balance 10 times a week but can't remember the last time you did something fun, you're not winning the money game. You're just sitting in the bleachers guarding your coins. Remember, the goal isn't to die with the most money. It's to live with the least regret. Number 7. Luck matters more than hard work in building wealth. This one's going to hurt a little, because it destroys the one thing we all want to believe, that success is earned. But statistically speaking, luck has more to do with wealth than hard work ever will. Let's get something straight first. Hard work matters. It's just not the deciding factor. You can grind 12 hours a day, be smarter than everyone in the room, and still never make it past survival mode. Meanwhile, some guy who started a meme coin on Reddit retires at 29. Harvard researchers analyzed thousands of self-made millionaires and found that timing, birthplace, and random opportunity accounted for over 50% of their financial success. In plain English, right place, right time, right connections. The rest? Determination, talent, and work ethic. Important but secondary. There's even a computer simulation by Italian scientists that modeled equal talent among thousands of people. Everyone worked just as hard. Who got rich? The lucky ones. The people who just happened to be in the right position when opportunity hit. And here's the kicker. Luck compounds exactly like money. Once you get your first break, your odds of getting another skyrocket. It's called the Matthew effect. To those who have, more will be given. That's why rich people seem to get luckier over time. They're not necessarily smarter. They just already have the resources to catch the next wave while everyone else is still paddling. But don't confuse this with helplessness. You can't control luck, but you can control exposure to it. Hard work increases the number of lottery tickets you hold. Every new skill, project, or connection is a ticket. The more tickets, the better your odds. The real trap? Believing you're poor because you didn't work hard enough. That's the lie society tells to keep people grinding instead of questioning why the system rewards randomness more than effort. Even billionaires admit it. Like Warren Buffett once said, "I won the ovarian lottery, born in the right country, at the right time." That's not modesty, that's data. The truth is, success is a mixture of hustle, habit, and a whole lot of coincidence. So if you're out here grinding but still not rich, don't take it personally. You might just be early or late to your lucky break. And when it comes, don't waste it trying to look humble. You earned your luck by showing up enough times to finally catch it. Number 6. Why most lottery winners end up broke. Here's the ultimate financial plot twist. The people who win millions overnight almost always lose it all. Studies show that nearly 70% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years. Some even end up worse off than before they won. Sounds impossible, right? You'd think getting rich would fix everything. But psychologically, that kind of sudden wealth hits the brain the same way trauma does. It's called sudden wealth syndrome. When your net worth skyrockets overnight, your mind can't keep up. Every decision suddenly feels high stakes. Everyone around you starts treating you differently. Family, friends, even strangers. And your brain, which evolved to handle scarcity, short circuits, and abundance. A famous example is Jack Whitaker, who won $315 million in the Powerball. Within 5 years, his daughter and granddaughter both died under tragic circumstances. His house was broken into multiple times, and he was sued dozens of times. He once said, "I wish I had torn that ticket up." But it's not just bad luck, it's bad wiring. Psychologists found that people who come into money quickly tend to spend emotionally, not rationally. Their sense of normal changes overnight, and with no framework for managing wealth, they treat millions like monopoly money. And here's the strange part. Even people who've been broke their whole lives often feel guilt after getting rich. They start overcompensating, giving money away, buying things for others, or trying to prove they deserve it. Before long, the balance is gone. Meanwhile, the people who stay wealthy, they treat money like a business, not a miracle. They already have habits in place: budgeting, investing, saying no. Because money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies who you already were. If you were reckless before, you'll be reckless with millions. If you were disciplined, you'll multiply it. Researchers from the University of Kentucky even found that the brain's dopamine response to winning money fades faster than the satisfaction of earning it. That means your first win feels euphoric, but everything after feels emptier. So you keep spending to chase that original high. That's how a millionaire becomes broke again, one dopamine hit at a time. So the next time someone says money doesn't buy happiness, remember, it's not because money's bad. It's because humans are terrible at handling good fortune without preparation. The lesson: you don't need a lucky ticket, you need a steady system. Because money earned fast disappears faster. But money earned with patience, that stuff tends to stick around. Number 5. Why your brain treats digital money like it isn't real. You ever notice how easy it is to drop $100 online, but handing someone two $50 bills physically hurts? That's not just in your head, that's neuroscience. When you pay with cash, your brain activates the pain centers, specifically the insula, the part that flinches at loss. But when you tap a card or click confirm purchase, that pain response is muted. Your brain literally doesn't register it as spending. It feels more like playing a game. This is called the cashless effect, and corporations know it very, very well. That's why your favorite app doesn't show $3.99, it shows $3.99 credits. Because the further they can push your mind away from the idea of real money, the easier it is to drain your wallet. Ever notice casinos don't use dollars, they use chips? It's not for style, it's to disconnect your brain from loss. And that same psychology is what makes online shopping addictive. Every tap gives you a dopamine hit, small, harmless, almost invisible, until your bank balance turns into a horror story. Here's a fun or depressing fact. In a study by MIT, participants were asked to bid on the same items using either cash or credit cards. The credit card users spent up to 83% more. Same product, same people, different payment method, that's how powerful the illusion is. Digital money doesn't feel real, so you treat it like it isn't. That's also why subscription services are thriving. Netflix, Spotify, your gym, all rely on what psychologists call set and forget spending. You pay automatically, and because it doesn't hurt, you don't notice. You're not making financial decisions anymore. You're just existing in a constant stream of micropayments. And when you combine this with contactless payments and buy now, pay later schemes, you're not just spending money, you're time-traveling debt into your future self's bank account. But the scariest part? Your brain rewards you for spending digital money. Every click, every order, every "your package has shipped" notification, tiny dopamine hits. Your phone is literally turning you into an emotional gambler with prettier graphics. The world's richest companies don't sell products anymore, they sell frictionless spending. Amazon's one-click purchase button has made them hundreds of billions of dollars because it deletes the moment of hesitation between want and regret. So if you've ever wondered why your card statement looks like a crime scene, it's not lack of discipline, it's by design. You're not bad with money, you're just using it in a system that's built to make you forget it's real. Want to hack it? Try paying cash for a week. You'll suddenly rediscover what money feels like, and it stings in the best possible way. Number 4. Why rich people donate less, percentage-wise, than the poor. Here's a paradox that'll break your brain. The richer people get, the smaller the percentage of their income they give away. It sounds backward, right? You'd think having more money would make people more generous. But the data says otherwise. In fact, according to multiple studies, including research from the Chronicle of Philanthropy and UC Berkeley, people earning under $50,000 a year give around 4.5% of their income to charity. Meanwhile, people making over $200,000 give around 2.8%. And the ultra-wealthy? Many give less than 1%. So, what's going on? It comes down to psychology and a few uncomfortable truths. When you don't have much, you're closer to struggle. You feel empathy more deeply because you know what it's like to need help. Generosity becomes instinct. You see someone struggling, and your brain says, that could be me. But as wealth increases, distance does too. Money buys convenience, bigger houses, private travel, gated communities, all designed to keep discomfort out of sight. And when you stop seeing struggle, you stop emotionally relating to it. There's even a name for this, the compassion fade. Once you reach a certain level of comfort, your brain subconsciously deactivates empathy, triggers to protect your peace. That's why studies show luxury car drivers are 4 times more likely to cut someone off at an intersection than people in cheaper cars. Wealth doesn't necessarily make people worse, it just makes them more insulated. Now, before you start judging, it's not always malice. Rich people often think they're already helping by paying taxes, creating jobs, or investing. They see philanthropy as optional, not moral. But here's the irony. Poor and middle-class people are often the ones donating anonymously. Dropping a few dollars into a jar at the grocery store, helping a friend pay rent. Small acts that never make the news, but add up to real impact. Even when billionaires give big, it's usually strategic. Donations often go through foundations, which come with tax breaks, PR boosts, and sometimes total control over how the money is used. That's not charity, that's wealth management. And yet the cycle continues. The poor give out of need, the rich give out of image. There's one more twist. When poor people win the lottery, their charitable giving increases. But when rich people get richer through bonuses, inheritance, or investments, their giving often decreases. The higher you climb, the more your empathy gets buried under numbers, stocks, and efficiency. It's not about hating the rich, it's about understanding the psychology of wealth. Because if you ever become rich, and you might, you'll face the same test. Will you remember what it felt like to need help, or convince yourself that you're helping just by existing? Money doesn't make people greedy. It just removes the boundaries that used to keep greed in check. Number 3. Why debt is the most profitable business in the world. Here's the wildest thing about modern finance. The system isn't built to reward people who pay. It's built to reward people who owe. Debt isn't just part of the economy anymore. It is the economy. From your credit card to your student loans to the national deficit, every level of society runs on the same quiet addiction: borrowed money. And the people cashing in? They're not the ones lending $100 to a friend. They're the corporations who realize that interest is the most powerful force on earth, right after gravity and stupidity. Let's break this down. You get your first credit card. $1,000 limit, feels like freedom. You buy something small, say a $200 pair of shoes. You tell yourself, I'll pay it off next month. Then the bill comes, you pay the minimum, and boom, you just entered the debt machine. Those shoes didn't cost $200 anymore. By the time you're done paying interest, they cost $250, sometimes more. Multiply that by millions of people, and suddenly Visa, MasterCard, and American Express are raking in billions just from interest. You're not their customer. You're their investment. And here's the messed up part. Credit card companies make the most money off the people who struggle the most. They call them revolvers, the people who don't pay in full. The perfect customer isn't rich. It's broke, but optimistic. Now scale that system up. They have student loans, $1.7 trillion in the US alone. Mortgages, $12 trillion. Car loans, personal loans, business loans, every time you borrow, you're fueling an empire. And the system is designed so that debt feels normal. Banks literally profit more when you don't pay something off quickly. That's why 0% interest for 6 months isn't generosity, it's bait. Because statistically, 80% of people don't pay it off in time. Here's the genius or evil of it all. The same people who lend you money also control the rules of credit. They decide your score, your limit, your penalties, and they sell your data to more lenders. Debt isn't personal, it's predictive. Even the government runs on it. When countries borrow, investors make money on the interest from national debt. So yes, technically your taxes partly go to pay other people's investments. The late George Carlin once said, "The game is rigged." He wasn't wrong, he just didn't know how mathematically accurate he was. Here's the cruel poetry of the debt economy. If you're in debt, you're someone's asset. If you have no debt, you're free, but useless to the system. So the next time you see a bank ad saying, "We believe in your dreams," remember they don't believe in you. They believe in interest. Money you borrow makes them rich. Money you save makes them bored. That's why the modern financial system doesn't need to steal from you. It just needs to convince you that debt is normal, and then sit back while you pay for the rest of your life. Number 2. Why being bad with money might not be your fault. It's your brain chemistry. You've probably called yourself bad with money before. Maybe after blowing your budget, buying something dumb, or opening your banking app and whispering, "Oh no." But here's the truth. You're not broken. Your brain is just wired for a world that no longer exists. See, our brains evolved to survive scarcity, not to navigate online shopping carts, dopamine-driven spending apps, or crypto trading platforms that blink at you like slot machines. Your ancestors hunted and gathered. You scroll and spend. And the same reward system that once helped us find food and safety? Now it's the reason you can't resist limited time offers. Here's how it works. When you buy something, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. It's not the owning that triggers the high, it's the anticipation. That's why you get the rush when you click buy now, not when the package actually arrives. The financial industry figured this out decades ago and turned it into a science. Ever wondered why sales emails use red buttons? Or why only 3 left in stock makes you panic buy? That's artificial scarcity, a survival trigger, hijacked for profit. Now let's talk about the pain of spending. When you physically hand over cash, your brain feels a micro jolt of loss. But when you tap a card or click a button, that pain vanishes. So you keep spending because there's no friction. That's not lack of discipline. That's neuroeconomics. Your brain literally lying to you to keep the dopamine loop going. And companies know this. That's why mobile games have gems, not dollars. Why Starbucks has a star balance. Why Amazon hides prices under C details. They're all replacing money with symbols of money to make your brain stop caring. Even the sounds are designed. Ever heard that satisfying ding when your card is approved? That's not random, it's a reward cue, the same psychology casinos use on slot machines. In other words, your wallet isn't losing. Your brain chemistry is being played. Here's where it gets even darker. The more stressed you are, the more impulsive your brain becomes. Cortisol, the stress hormone, actually lowers your ability to think long term. That's why people under financial pressure often make worse financial decisions. The system literally punishes you for being stressed about money by making you worse at managing it. So no, you're not bad with money. You're fighting billions of dollars in behavioral design, and hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. But here's the hopeful twist: you can hack it. Set spending speed bumps. Make it harder to buy. Delete saved cards. Wait 24 hours before major purchases. Use physical cash where possible. When you slow the process down, you give your logical brain time to wake up, and suddenly the dopamine fades. The rush turns into, do I really need this? And most of the time, the answer is no. Because financial freedom doesn't start with more money. It starts with knowing your brain's cheat codes. Number 1. Why having too much money can actually make you miserable. Here's the biggest plot twist in personal finance. The thing everyone's chasing might actually be the thing that ruins them. Because the science is clear. After a certain point, money stops buying happiness and starts buying disconnection. In 2010, researchers at Princeton found that happiness rises with income, but only up to about $75,000 a year. After that, it levels off. More recent studies push that number a little higher, around $100,000 to $120,000, but the curve is still the same. Why? Because money can eliminate pain, but it can't create meaning. If you're broke, money solves problems. Bills, stress, survival, all gone. But once your basic needs are met, your brain shifts. You stop asking, how do I survive? And start asking, what am I even doing? And that's where things get weird. Wealth isolates. When you have money, people start acting differently around you. Some admire you, some resent you, and some pretend to like you just long enough to benefit. Relationships become transactions, and trust becomes rare. Suddenly you're surrounded by people, but you've never felt lonelier. Even simple joys lose their shine. A study published in Psychological Science found that wealthy people literally experience less pleasure from everyday things. A perfect sunset, a good meal, a lazy day. Their brains show weaker dopamine responses. It's not that they don't enjoy it. It's that their baseline for pleasure has been pushed too high. You can thank hedonic adaptation for that, the psychological treadmill that makes humans constantly crave more. Get a raise? You'll want a promotion. Buy a car? You'll want a nicer one. Move into a mansion? Give it 6 months, it'll feel normal. And the saddest part, the more money you have, the more you fear losing it. You start building walls, legal ones, literal ones, emotional ones. You protect your assets but sacrifice your peace. That's why some billionaires work harder after they've made their fortune. They're not driven by ambition anymore, they're driven by fear. The same fear you had when you were broke, just dressed in designer clothes. It's a cycle that never ends. We chase wealth for freedom, but the more we get, the more trapped we become by expectations, responsibilities, and pressure to maintain it. So what's the fix? It's not don't make money, it's don't let money become the measure. Because real wealth is control over your time. The ability to say no without fear. To work because you want to, not because you have to. At the end of the day, happiness isn't found in a number. It's found in enough. And enough isn't a dollar amount. It's the moment when your money stops controlling your life and starts serving it. Because once you learn how to want less, the world can't sell you anything more.